Welcome to Behind the Badge. This podcast aims to improve the health and well-being of frontline workers. Each episode features candid conversations with former and current frontline community members and subject matter experts. Join us as we explore the unique nature of serving in high-risk roles, sharing inspiring stories of resilience, strategies, and resources. We are not qualified health professionals, nor are we aligned with any organization. The opinions expressed in the podcast are solely our own. Additionally, the content may evoke strong emotional responses for some. Listener discretion is advised.
I don't wanna promise that we have an answer, and I don't wanna promise that we know the way. I just wanna bury the guilt of the nature like a tidal wave.
Welcome back to Behind the Badge. My name's Josh, and I'm joined by Jason Anderson.
Morning, Josh.
How are you?
Very well, thanks, mate.
That's good. We're also joined today in this episode by Mali Briggs. Mali is a first responder of about 15, 16 years, and he's also the CEO and founder of Aussie Frontline. Mali, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good to meet you both.
You too.
Pleasure's all ours, mate. Before we get to Aussie Frontline, mate, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow up, and how was life for you as a young fella?
Yeah, sure. No brothers or sisters, so I'm an only child to an only mother. Anyone who might have listened to the Zero Limits podcast probably has an in-depth knowledge of my my upbringing. But I trust you guys won't tease me as much as Maddie did. So, grew up in southern Adelaide, so Raynella, South Australia, and had a pretty diverse childhood, lots of different sports, lots of different hobbies, had no one in my family circle that was a first responder or a military member. Went through my schooling, did all the usual silly things that young blokes do, and probably a few extras, and ultimately joined the emergency services in 2009 at the age of about 21. So I've been out of school a couple of years and got into, I think I was working at a gym at the time, and there was a fella that I'd used to play in a band with. Later years in high school, I played guitar in a bit of a metal band. You know, we were terrible, but we were having a great time. And I hadn't seen him for a couple of years, and then I was working at the gym, and this black Commodore rolled in, blacked out windows, blacked out wheels, lowered. This guy got out with his hat backwards, and I was like, "Who is this cat?" And it turns out it was my mate back from the band days, and we got chatting, and I asked him what he was up to, and he said he was in the emergency services. And after that conversation, I was sold. I was like, "That's the career for me." And then maybe I'll get a nice car as well. So 6 months later, I was in commencing my journey in the emergency services, and that was almost 16 years ago. And here we are.
Excellent. So, interesting enough, with the emergency services, what then drew you to setting up the Aussie Frontline? How did that all connect together?
Yeah, so I guess through working in that space for so many years, like many others, I was exposed to the loss of colleagues and friends who were in the job as well, and quite privy to, the stresses in their life that at the time didn't realise it was leading them to that point, but in hindsight, which is a wonderful thing. Privy to the isolation that can occur, the pressure that can occur, the types of traumatic jobs that myself and them and everyone else gets exposed to, and then how individuals begin to cope with the stress and the result of repeat attendances to those sorts of jobs. And everyone deals with it differently, but there came a point where I'd lost quite a few people I considered friends. And look, you'll never know exactly what the straw was at the time, but I saw them enough in my career to have a bit of a general understanding on what might have led them to make that decision. And then that was sort of topped off by a really close friend of mine, so someone that I considered family. Thankfully, not taking their own life, but getting very, very, very close. And it was after that I guess, felt almost the responsibility to try and do something about it. That's coupled with, I guess, an understanding and some job maturity within the emergency services to understand that whilst they all mean well, and when I say they all, I mean like police, fireys, paramedics, different states, the organisations themselves, they mean well, and they certainly try to look after their people. But it's just a really mammoth task, and I don't think there's really one solution. And it really needs a multifaceted approach. And I decided that I had an idea that could potentially be one piece of that puzzle. And that was sort of like the seed, I guess you could call it, for Aussie Frontline. And to be, I guess, a bit more specific about that seed, it was around pride and culture is where it began. So an acknowledgement that, at least in my time working in that role, I'd seen a steady decline in culture, social connection within the workplace, and general positivity as a result. So a lot of, co-rumination and talking about the problems, focusing on the problems, whinging about the mechanics of the organisation, whatever that organisation is, which creates a bit of a toxic work environment. People that, are in the toxic work environment every day are not particularly happy and fulfilled people, which has a flow-on effect to mental health. So the beginning and the seed of Aussie Frontline was the shirt, the emblem. So it was about going, okay, I couldn't tell you the last time that I was at work and had a conversation or was around some people where I could see that there was some pride. There were some people that actually was like, you know what, I love what I do, and I love being here, and I love the people I work with in it. And I thought I could probably do something about that, I reckon. So I created the shirt after creating the emblem, which we can talk about if you want to. But and the shirt was a way of going, representing your service and your particular role, whatever that may be, but also at the same time acknowledging the service of others that might not be doing the same role as you, but are other first responders or military members or veterans, and may have, and probably do have, very similar experiences, very similar exposures, and very similar challenges. There's a lot of overlap. So it was a way of, I guess, people being able to wear a little bit of their pride and trying to bring that back again under the banner of this shared experience. And that was the beginning of Aussie Frontline.
Mate, do you want to just quickly touch on the emblem itself and the different elements within it?
Yeah, so there's elements from each of the emergency services and ADF emblems. So there's a part of the insignia of all of them in one, basically. So from my perspective, it's pretty self-explanatory, but the anchor obviously stands for representative of the Navy, the cross swords of the Army, the eagle of Air Force, the crown represents police and corrections. You'll find that on every state's and territory's emblem. The Imperial Cross for the paramedics, and the helmet with the crossed axes for fireys. So tried to bring them all together in one cohesive way as one family, which you'll see on my Aussie Frontline hat here. Bit of a slogan we use, but yeah, we ultimately are, and I honestly believe that. And yeah, wearing the shirt began as a way to, I guess, push that positive message out into the community that we're one family. Let's look for each other. We might not know each other on a personal level, but we probably have something in common.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Yeah, exactly.
So, mate, you've got this emblem going. You've put it on a couple of shirts. What'd you do with it? How'd you get it out there? Because obviously it's much bigger now. How did you kick it off?
So social media, Instagram photos, and just positive messaging, and I guess the community and the demographic will then tell you whether it's got any meaning to them, and it turns out it does. So there was quite a lot of I guess engagement from the community that saw value in that, and making sure that accompanying anything that we were putting out on social media was a positive message about strengthening culture and strengthening social connection and strengthening our sense of pride in what we do, and remembering that it's actually the emergency service, military, any sort of service is something to be proud of, regardless of the frustrations you may have with your workplace. It's still a noble service and something that's very important to the general function of our society. So, social media, that's all we had at the time, just an Instagram page. And I guess to elaborate on that, we made sure that there was an element of help that went back into the community as a result of the purchasing of those shirts. So $10 from every shirt from day one until now has gone back into supporting emergency service workers, military members, and veterans. It began. So in the beginning, we were donating that money to a pilot program that was in a trial phase here in South Australia. And then after a short period of time, we changed that up because that was only available to people in South Australia, which wasn't fair. So we started diverting those funds to Frontline Mental Health, which is a counselling service that's owned and run by ex-service people, to deliver counselling, which we do nationally. So either in person here in SA or via Zoom or any of those platforms. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I really like the national aspect of Aussie Frontline. Obviously each service type is its individual sector, and they can be quite, siloed, and you can feel that way. But obviously Aussie Frontline doesn't adhere to those boundaries, and everyone can feel a part of that community regardless of where you're located.
They can, and it's independent from their employer, which has been apparent that's very important. There's a lot of people that just don't have enough trust in their organisation to go and take their most vulnerable conversation to them. And I won't comment on whether that trust deficit is justified or not. That's a matter for them. But it's become apparent that having independent services available for members, but delivered by people that have extensive experience in this area and with these people, is valuable, and it's actually not that easy to find. So we aim to fill that void.
Yeah, I was going to comment exactly on that. My question to you was going to be, with you guys, obviously there's that instant connection where, from an organisational perspective, there's that, I guess, that reluctancy to be vulnerable in front of the organisation. So how much, can you, it's obviously very tangible what you're seeing and doing, opposed to being within the service and, feeling it yourself going, well, yeah, I'm not really willing to have that conversation.
Yeah, my offsider Dan puts it best. He's like, we are and you are in the business of providing the help, not asking for the help. And so it's very hard when you do need the help to A, acknowledge it, and then B, actually ask for it. There's a lot of nobility that comes with being in service, and it's very hard to go, actually, I know my job's to help others, but I'm going to ask for help now. So a lot of what we do in the messaging that we put out, and the culture we're trying to build around Aussie Frontline is to try and break that down, so that if someone is struggling, that they feel empowered to ask for help, and then supported by not only us and the company, but the other community members that are around the place. So, and the thing is, you'll never know how much of that you've created. Like, you can try and guess, but it's very hard to get facts and data on how much impact we've been able to have. However, the amount of counselling that we've been able to donate, and we can only donate it if someone asks for it. So if no one asks for it, there's nothing to fund. But the amount that we have funded would suggest that we've been able to make some headway in that and get people having conversations that potentially have never had conversations before, despite, 5, 10, 20, 30 years in whatever job it is that they've been doing. So, it's worthwhile, and it's being achieved, which is great.
And I think too with the shirt, it's almost that silent message. I'm proud to wear the shirt, which potentially could mean I'm proud to speak. But if I'm wearing the shirt, it means I'm okay to do that, which I think is
spot on. Yeah, you're spot on. And anyone that's followed, what the messaging that we put out, and any of our content on socials, if they see someone out in the community wearing that shirt, they know there's an element of mental health conversation and support that goes along with that emblem and with that brand. So if there's someone that hasn't yet been able to potentially open up about some things that they might be struggling with, and they see that in the community, it's a message back to them that, hey, you're not the only one. And we get quite a lot of feedback, which we love getting. So if you're listening to this and you've got feedback, please send it through. But about people going, hey, I was at the shops, or I was at the gym, or I was in the park, and I saw one of the shirts, and I had a chat to them, and then that led on to all these other things that they spoke about, which provided to be very valuable for them at that time. So and we couldn't hope for any more than that. That's fantastic.
It's that whole one conversation at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, conversation starter.
Well. Excellent.
So Mali, you mentioned that you pivoted and started donating money to Frontline Mental Health. Is that still the case, or are those funds being directed in a different way now?
Yeah, so they still go to, so we have what we call a counselling pool. So 25% of the cost of the shirt, or $10 per shirt, gets diverted every purchase to that counselling pool. And then any time we need to fund counselling for a member of our community, then we use those funds. So we use Frontline Mental Health to deliver that service. There are trusted service provider. Maddie from Frontline Mental Health has been a long-term friend of mine. Plenty of podcasts on him if anyone wants to know his story. But I don't trust anyone more than him. Hence why we use their service. So that still happens today. So we still have a number of people going through sponsored counselling packages through them, and their service is growing too. So they're getting more and more counsellors on board. So there's more options for people. Not everyone wants to speak to a male or a female. Not everyone wants to speak to someone who's been in a job before, or most do, but many actually prefer not to. So Matt's building the capability of that company to be able to meet the requirements of everyone in our community, which is great. But yes, to answer your question, that's still happening today. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And what does that look like? So if someone wanted to, engage in that or get a sponsored package from you guys, what does that process look like?
All they got to do is just let us know, and that can be done via email or message on Instagram. Literally just say, hey, I'd like to speak to someone. And then we'll just get their name, phone number, and email. We'll set it up with Frontline Mental Health, and then within 24 hours, they'll have an email induction from them saying, hey, you've got a package. This is how to book in. This is who you can book in with. We're here for you. So it's a very quick turnaround, which is super important, because people, when they, when they've been sitting on, internal stresses or problems that have been occurring in their life for months or years, and they finally get to the point where they're willing to talk to someone about it, and then that person says, yep, my next appointment's in 4 months, that's not when they need the help. If they're asking for the help, they need the help. So, we can generally get them spoken to within a very short turnaround time, which is important to us.
Yeah, and look, that's important to the people on the floor. I've spoken to people, the frustration that comes out of, like you say, making themselves open and vulnerable, and all of a sudden, the next appointment's in 3 months' time. That almost sends them into a downslide in their own sort of mental health alone. I mean, obviously with the current world we live in, with the, we're on the better side of COVID, I'd like to think, but in that period, counselling services were just stretched everywhere. But that, what you say, that direct help is going to be a huge positive for anyone I think that'll be one thing that will encourage them more to speak up, knowing that they can get that direct help.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. It's almost doing more damage than nothing at all by saying, "Yep, I'm happy to help you, but you're going to have to sit on whatever you're feeling and then let it compound for the next 3 or 4 months, and then I'll speak to you then."
Yeah.
You'd be better off not having that, not having that appointment at all. So yeah, time frame and it happening quickly is super important. I can't stress that enough.
Most definitely.
On that point, Marley, like you said before, that we're not generally that good at asking for help. Is your counselling packages, I mean, we don't have to wait until we're at that point to engage either, right?
Correct. Yeah. You don't have to at all. And to be honest, it's probably something we could get better at, which is making sure people know that they don't need to be, at the point of crisis to use our service. We are happy if you want to speak to someone about anything, whether it's work or personal life, whether it's, whether you're in crisis or whether you want a goal set or whether you just want to chat about some things that you think may be contributing to some poor behaviors in your personal life or work life, stick your hand up and we'll fund it and you can go and chat it through. Nothing makes us more happy than when someone's going, you know what, I actually don't need this at the moment, but I actually want to make sure I don't get to the point where I need it. So I'd love it. I'd love to talk to someone. That puts a smile on all of our faces. That's fantastic. So, if you, it doesn't need to be crisis. Yeah.
That's huge. That's currently you're still engaged with emergency services. Is there, in your opinion, from what you've seen, been a generation change? Is the current generation seeking more help, or is it a culture change or a generation change? Where do you see, and I guess going back in the earlier days when we probably joined the services, it was not spoken about, so there's that element, but do you see more people wanting to put their hand up now through generational culture change?
I personally think so. I've got no hard and fast data to back this up, but I feel like the younger generation is definitely more willing to accept help and ask for it when they need it, which is a good thing. Is the younger generation, do they appear to be as I guess resilient and have the same amount of coping skills for stress as the older generation? I don't know. That's another conversation, but they definitely seem more open and willing to say, you know what, I'm not coping. Like I think I should probably speak to someone. And I think that's probably as a result of the constant messaging that's trying to break down the barriers of speaking about mental health has been, talked about for quite a few years now. And it's certainly not, it's not a battle that's been won, but I think it's definitely made an impact. And the more that the younger generation see people doing it, the more they figure it's okay and they do it too, which is exactly what it's all about. But yeah, definitely a culture, generational shift, I reckon.
I certainly, one of the things I get really or feel positive about is driving down the highway and you see the young male driving the ute with "It ain't weak to speak." I think, that's got so much power because it seems to be the stigma was males, we're the brave species and we don't talk about those things. But that, I think, highlights how far we have moved forward just to see those messages and again, back to the shirts and all that stuff. Yeah, that's been a real big positive shift.
And they're getting it from different angles too. It's not just, like as you said, the utes with the stickers. You've got Bunnings stocking shirts that are the tradie shirts that are all about having a brightly coloured shirt that sparks a conversation about mental health. Like it's coming from lots of different angles, which is, in my opinion, that's a great thing.
Oh, fantastic.
Marley, do you want to talk us through the Pay It Forward system?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. So the Pay It Forward program is a way for someone in the community to acknowledge someone else that they know. And we do that by sending them a shirt and a personalised note, either from us or from the person that's nominated them. So we've got a little graphic on our website which shows you the actual steps in that pay it forward process. So the first step is a shirt sponsorship. So someone pays for a shirt. That can be anyone, and generally it's sponsored by someone who doesn't know where it's going to go. They're not nominating anyone. They're just saying, "Hey, I'm going to sponsor the shirt. You guys work out where it's going." Step two, and don't quote me on these numbers because I haven't looked at the graphic for a while, but the next step is us basically putting it out to the community saying, "Hey, we've got some shirts that have been sponsored. If you want to nominate someone, here's your chance." And then that someone will nominate. We have a form for that we'll publish, and it's a pretty easy, like self-explanatory online form. So they pop in their details. They pop in the details of the person they're nominating. What a little brief description, if they're willing to, about why they're nominating them. Any personal message that they want included, which we'll handwrite. And then obviously we just need to know what we're sending and where we're sending it. And then we will put that together. So we'll match that nomination with a sponsored shirt, and then put it together and then send it out. So the aim being that the recipient will receive something in the mail. They have no idea what it is. They'll open it. It'll be an Aussie Frontline shirt and a message either from us, from the nominator, or both. And what that message is up to the nominator. So sometimes it's just like, "We see you, keep going." Sometimes it's a massive note about, a particular job they went to, and, letting them know that they did a good job. It's sometimes being used for a bit of a pick-me-up. So someone that might be, just in a bit of a dark spot, just to let them know that there's people that are thinking of them. And sometimes it's got nothing to do with mental health, and it's just about someone that did good work, and someone else just wants to acknowledge it because they saw it and they felt like it was worth acknowledging. So it's a way for people to acknowledge others ultimately. And we've done that. We've completed that cycle now 500 times. So 500 have been sponsored, 500 nominations, 500 recipients, and we've tracked every single one of those. So we can tell you every single sponsor where their shirt went. And my hope is one day we'll get that up on no name. Sorry, I'll make sure that none of these people, no details are told to the other person. So if you're a recipient of a shirt, you'll be told where it came from, what state it came from, and what service the sponsor was in. So it might be like, this shirt was sponsored by a paramedic in Western Australia. That's it. And then the sponsor is told your shirt ended up with a police officer in Queensland, but they don't know who they are. But yeah, so we keep those details. And one day I'm going to get all that up anonymously on the website with a map. So you'll be able to, if you've ever sponsored, nominated, or received, you'll be able to actually go and find it and see. And I had a look at, I've had the web developer show me a concept, and like we've got a map of Australia, and we've got every sponsor, nominated, recipient for each one tracked with a line, and Australia is just covered with a web of lines, and it's the most beautiful thing to look at. It's so good. Gets me excited.
Well done.
Thank you. But that all started from one South Australian firefighter who I did a little competition winning a shirt, when I first started this. And he'd already bought one like the day before, and he's like, "No, I don't want to take another one. Please find someone and give it to them." And so we're like, "Oh, that's a good idea." So we put a call out. Does anyone know anyone? And that's how it was born. So just like everything we've done, it's born out of the community's desire and support, and to want to look after each other. Yeah.
Yeah, good. What a great mechanism to acknowledge and say thank you to someone. Which is something that I personally think we struggle with a little bit as well. Sometimes is that acknowledgement and just saying thanks to each other for doing a good job or whatever it is. That's a really beautiful way to be able to do that.
It is, and it's not. We don't do our jobs to be thanked. But let's be honest. When someone acknowledges something you've done, it is nice. It's nice to be acknowledged. Like it's nor should we feel any shame about that. But there are people that have received this shirt for whatever reason, and in 10 years in their job or 20 years in their job, it's the first time they can remember that they've felt seen and thanked. Like, that's crazy.
It's wild,
You
isn't
know,
it?
like 40 hours a week at the least, times 10 years, 20 years, all those jobs you've been to, all that good work you've done, all those, you know, really terrible scenes you've been to that you've taken home and processed in your own time around your families. And then the first time you're thanked is 10, 15, 20 years down the track. Like, that blows my mind. And so that you can see why it has such a profound impact, even though it's just a shirt. It's this, I guess, the symbology behind it and the meaning behind it that is generating the impact. It's, you know, it's a cotton t-shirt. It's not going to change the world, but it has changed people's perceptions and how they feel about the world that they're operating in, which is great.
Yeah, and on top of that, I guess you've got that acknowledgement, but also, like you said, if someone's struggling a bit, there's also that pick-me-up element too of support that may also not be there within, you know, their team, section, organisation.
Yeah, 100%. And it's authentic. It's not, if you get an email from you know, higher ups at work that say, "Hey, good job last weekend," or something like that, it goes in one ear and out the other. But this hits on a different level, you know. Yeah.
I'm going to have to get Josh to nominate me for a T-shirt, and I'll nominate you. And again, I like such a simple concept with a T-shirt and that pay it forward. And, you know, all of us in the emergency services, I'd like to think, still get up in the morning or night shift and put the uniform on and feel proud to walk out and serve the community. That, I think, has that same impact or same appeal, but yet flip it on its head in that sort of mental health space. You're doing some great things, and wow, I look at it like, you know, getting back to what you were saying before it gets to that point where I really need this help, when people can come to you and say, "Look, I don't know if it's quite what I need just now, but let's have a conversation." It's almost like carrying a script round for medication. I haven't got a headache today, but I've got the script. If I ever get a headache, I'll duck in the chemist and get my medication. That seems to be the same sort of thing linked for me. It's that in itself is just incredible.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, like I would dare say that if you checked every member's patrol bag or work bag or emergency service, whatever the service they're in, you know, how many people are carrying Panadols around, you know, in their drawer or what, you know, just in case they get a headache.
Yeah.
You know, why is that okay? Yeah. But go on a chat to someone. If you see some red flags, you know, that's perceived as not as okay. And yeah, that's a good concept. I like that.
And I guess that's that cultural stigma piece that you're trying to, I guess, shift the needle on, is that there is no difference. There is absolutely no difference in that to go and speak to someone when you're not in crisis. You're just you're in that maintenance mode. You're, you know, making sure you're on a even keel, and
we have to maintain everything, don't we? We have to maintain the car. We have to service the car. We don't wait for the car to break and then take it to the mechanic. You take it to the mechanic so it doesn't break. You know, you go to the physio if you're into sports or whatever. You go to the physio and get your regular checkup. You know, so that you don't pull the hammy. You know, wait. So you know, all of this messaging, not only us but everyone else, is just slowly hammering that home that you don't need to be in crisis before you reach out to your support network, whatever that is. Yeah.
I had that lived experience 2 weeks ago. I was sitting in a mechanical workshop waiting for my car to be serviced. He walked in, this guy walked through the door, burst the door open, said, "When was the last time you serviced your car?" "Oh, mate, I don't know. You've got no oil." And he absolutely gave me... And I felt sick in the stomach, because I'm thinking of $40,000 for a motor. I was literally sick. And then I thought about that, hang on a minute. I don't put that emphasis on my own health, but I'm almost struggling with the fact I've got no oil in my car. It was just it was bizarre to me. I thought I need to really start focusing on what's important. I don't want to get, run out of oil in the body before someone tells me, you're no good, mate. So yeah, it was weird, but yeah, I felt like a school kid. But anyway, I got the car serviced. So.
Very passionate mechanic you go to.
Oh, very.
So Marley, what about yourself, mate? Are you responding to a lot of this stuff? Are you doing all of this yourself? And in turn, are you taking a lot of this stuff on? Like if people are reaching out saying, hey, you know, I've got this going on or this has happened, you know, does that wear down on you?
Good question. Not really. I do manage all the, you know, the social media and website stuff myself. I don't generally get people sort of unloading their struggles to me directly. It has happened, obviously, but for the most part, they're just saying, "Hey, I've seen your counselling packages. I'd like to speak to someone." So my job is generally to just connect one dot to the other. So link them up with Frontline Mental Health and make that transition nice, quick, easy, and smooth, and fund it, obviously. So no, I don't feel or become worn down. I mean, I'm still full time in the emergency services, so I mean the job is wearing me down way more than this is. But yeah, and look, on the odd occasion when someone does actually, you know, go into detail about what they're struggling with me, then I'll do my best to meet them there and acknowledge that, and still try to get them to where they need to go. And you know, I'm okay with that, and that's a responsibility that I graciously accept.
So, a question for you, Marley. You said earlier in the piece that the reason or the big drive behind all this was obviously seeing close friends going through that, you know, suffering and you know, a lot of trauma due to exposure to the job. Do you approach that differently now if you see a work colleague potentially suffering? And what's the approach for you? Because a lot of people don't know how to ask that question, are you okay? How do you approach that if you see in your workplace that person that's quite not on that day, or you can see a total shift in their normal performance or character?
Yeah, definitely. It's, you know, the way I respond to that's changed over the 15, 16 years that I've been working in this space. How I deal with seeing people struggling in the workplace and how I try to navigate that now is just by offering them connection and time and space. And the trap for young players is that you might pull them aside and say, "Hey, you know, are you okay?" And I guarantee you that they'll say yes, they're okay. I shouldn't guarantee anything, but there's a good chance they'll say, "Yeah, I'm all good." Yeah, so don't ask the question, because you probably shouldn't listen to that answer if you're seeing the flags. But what you know, just offering that connection piece and that actual authentic conversation with them is likely to lead to some sort of conversation that will benefit them, even if you don't know what that is. Just being heard, being seen that day, having a moment to just unpack a little bit of what's going on for them. That might be all that they need. But if you're looking for them to tell you, "Yep, I'm struggling, I need this," you'll be looking for a while, because very rarely will they tell you. But back in the day, I probably would have just been like, "Are you all right, mate?" And they would have been like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And then I would have just moved on and just left it at that.
Yeah.
That'd be my advice anyway, because it's hard to help someone who doesn't want to be helped, but you can just be there to talk to them at whatever level they're willing to talk at.
Just create an opportunity.
Correct. Yeah, creating opportunity for them to feel comfortable and you know, talk to you about things that they might be thinking that they might not have thought about telling you. Yeah.
What about the family aspect? As in, you know, obviously Aussie Frontline, do they cater to families of emergency service workers?
Yeah. Again, it's probably something we could do better in terms of letting people know that, but we're absolutely happy to fund these packages for the partner of. I can't say we've ever been asked by like a child of or a parent of, but we would happily do that too. So, you know, from our perspective, the partners of emergency service workers or military members or veterans who may have never been in service themselves have still very much lived a life intertwined with the job, whatever that job is, and the effects that that job has on them and their family and their partner. So we've supplied these packages for plenty of partners as well. Because the family unit is one unit, you know, well, you would hope, and it should be one unit. So if there's anyone listening that's got a partner in the job that has something they would like to sort of unpack and get some help with, then we're absolutely here for them too.
Excellent. Because I think sometimes it's the family member, being wife, husband, mother, father, kids. They're generally the ones that will notice massive change in behaviours. And, you know, without having, I mean, I guess they can only assume what happens when we go to work, and most of us don't talk about work when we get home, or for those who do, there's still that, I don't think there's an accurate understanding of what actually an emergency service worker goes through. But I think the key to some of that is the education side of it to those family members, because, like I said, they're going to be the ones to instantly, or, you know, notice that behaviour change, and I think that's part of the key that, you know, we need to improve on that message for everybody involved in mental health or emergency services.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It's kind of like with Aussie Frontline over the last couple of years. I could not tell you how many partners I've had message us going, "Hey, my partner is struggling. I don't know what to do. Have you got any advice?" I've asked them to speak to someone, and they're telling me they don't want to, and they kind of are turning to us to work out what to do. And I'm not a professional, so I'm very very careful with the advice that I give. But generally, it's, you know, all you can really do is try to respectfully and gently bring it to their attention. And if they're not willing to acknowledge it from you, then you're going to need to try and have that message delivered by someone else. And that might be a mate, it might be a parent, a brother, a sister. But, you know, you need to be problem aware before you can address a problem. And if you can't help them become problem aware, then you need to find someone that can help them become problem aware. Yeah, it's a really tricky landscape. And, you know, yeah, there's thousands out there trying to navigate that right now. It's hard. Yeah.
Do you reckon that organisations are sort of trending in the right direction with this stuff? Have you noticed a shift in how we're dealing with the mental health and resilience and that of our people?
Look, I can't speak for everyone. Whilst I won't disclose my own organisation, I can probably only reflect on them. I think they're definitely trying to do better, and I think they are doing better than they used to. And so the progress is in the right direction. My view is that there's too many moving parts for them to really get it right anytime soon. And, you know, and the organisations themselves are constrained to do things in particular ways, which aren't always, whilst they I guess make sense on paper, and they should work, given the complexities of these jobs and the people in them, they're probably just not hitting the mark for the boots on the ground. So I'm not criticising the organisations, because I think that with the constraints that they have and what they have to work with, they're doing their best. But I feel like there probably will need to be some progress made for it to be as effective as we all want it to be. You know, the organisation doesn't want its people leaving on stress and having to resign due to chronic PTSD and depression. The organisation doesn't want to lose experience. It doesn't want to break its people, and the people don't want to be broken either. But yeah, it's going to take some time to work out how a big organisation with thousands of people and lots of things to consider to deliver something that's personal and effective to one person at the bottom. It's really hard. And you know, it's very easy to criticise the organisations that we work for and tell them they're doing it all wrong and they're useless. It's easy to throw that out there. But I think those people would find, if they were involved in the inner workings, they would see that it's actually quite difficult to get right. Because just like, you know, operating boots on the ground in these services, we have to work with the rules and tools that we have. We can't go outside that. And they're no different. I'm not saying that there's not scope for change and progress, but they're definitely they've got their own set of rules and processes that they need to work within and around. And how does I call them organisms, but how does a big organism with thousands of employees make this one employee at the bottom that's struggling feel heard, seen, appreciated, acknowledged, and supported? It's not as easy as I think people would have it believe. But we exist because we're trying to fill that void and uncomplicate it and provide them with another option and we're not constrained by all that. We don't have to work with that. We can have a much simpler model, a much more personal model, and be there if they need it. But to answer your question, I think they're heading in the right direction. There's just a long way to go.
And that's across all organisations. That's just not one organisation in particular. There's no, better or worse. But yeah, we see that across all emergency services and defence, and so.
Yeah, and I guess that's the beauty of having something like Aussie Frontline or any of the other number of organisations or charities out there that sit outside of the organisations. They're not hamstrung by the same, those rules and tools that these organisations are. I guess the other side to that too, Marley, is, we had Mandy Kennedy on here on one of our episodes, and she highlighted a really good point, is that there's an element of responsibility and accountability on the individual as well, because just as you said, it's hard for a large organisation to drill down to have a program, intervention, training, whatever, to, suit the individual. It's also, there's an element of accountability and responsibility on that individual to look after their health, mental health as well.
Correct. Yeah, and that's a really good point. I call them boots on the ground, but you are responsible for your own health. You're responsible for what you put in your mouth, what you drink, what you do or don't take. If you're struggling and you haven't done anything about it, you can't blame your organisation. If you haven't told them and given them a chance to help you, you can't criticise them. If you're giving them a chance and you're finding it's not helpful, it might just not be for you, and there might be other things you need to do. Have you tried those other things? There absolutely is a responsibility on the individual to take the necessary steps as well. Yeah.
And I guess it goes back to a point before about early intervention too. I'm sure that all organisations do have a pathway that you can access some sort of help. I'm assuming if you use those programs at an earlier point, you've probably got a greater chance of success rather than waiting to that crisis point and then blaming the organisation. Yeah,
correct. There absolutely are things that you can access, and I can't speak for every organisation, but there are. I would find it hard to believe if there wasn't resources that you could access if you were like, hey, I'm not feeling great. I guess that what the struggle is that there seems to be not a lot of trust between those needing or those that should be asking for the help and the organisation, so they just don't ask for it.
Yep.
And that is an issue that's a cultural issue for the organisation to identify and to work on improving if they want their people to come to them early. We can't really change that because that's between the organisation and the people in it, but we can certainly offer something from us, and it would appear that there seems to be no sort of hesitation in people feeling like they can trust us and that we can sort of hold that space for them and support them, which is good.
Yeah, to me that's people wanting to talk to, like I would want to talk to someone that's got that same shared experience rather than, again, and let's face it, a lot of the organisation, they are experienced and, have been on the floor and but I think what you're promoting and doing is a far healthier avenue for someone to open up. I just think it has all that, I feel a sense of relief knowing that there's someone like you guys out there, because who knows? I mean, I always say to my crew, we're only potentially one job away from it. it can strike at any time, I guess, without that sort of deeper education into what actually happens through that process of PTSD. But knowing there's organisations like yourself, to me, just sends that sense of relief through my sort of being, saying that I've got somewhere to go. Going back to that, I've got the script if I need it. So, mate, I just praise what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. I think anyone listening to this podcast will hopefully have that sense of relief as well to open up to you guys and get everyone on the front foot and treat this a lot better than what we previously have been doing.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you saying, and I can only hope that others, end up with the same view as yourself. And I think one of the keys to being successful at that is that we obviously have a strong focus on health and well-being and mental health, but that's not everything we do. We're ultimately about supporting one another, continual development, focusing on or trying to remember like why you joined the job and to actually find that pride in your job again and not be pulled down by the or cultures that exist throughout different sections of different organizations and to actually feel some sense of pride, because it just feeling proud of what you do is one way to avoid going into this dark space. Because if you are living in a toxic environment at work and all you've got to talk about with your colleagues is how all the problems, well, you're going to go down much quicker. So whilst we have a strong focus on mental health, it's also, we stand for more than that. We stand for exactly what our slogan says on the website: thrive in your organisation, to thrive in these roles, not just survive them. Not just support people when they break, but actually help them, have a really good quality of life whilst managing these fairly stressful jobs.
And I think that's, again, a great message that you can still go to work and love the organisation. And, if someone's in that sort of darker space, they can get back to where they once were when they joined and love doing what they're doing and be proud to serve the community and still love going to work. And it's just, I guess, getting that person to that space. And only what you're doing is making those steps a lot less and, getting there a lot quicker.
Yeah, that's my hope.
Yeah. Mate, I can't thank you enough. It's very humbling.
Speaking of hopes, what are your hopes and visions for what you're doing? Is it going to keep tracking in the same direction? Yeah,
well, I think definitely we want to continue our growth. I've mentioned a couple of times in previous podcasts that our loose plan is to be the Bunnings of frontline member mental health. You know what I mean, and general wellbeing. So to be able to just offer a range of services, whatever they are, kind of like a one-stop shop to living your best life in these occupations. So, yes, that includes growth. It includes new programs, being able to get those programs further out into across Australia. We're only a very small company. Dan and I still work full time aside from Aussie Frontline. So you can imagine, the work that's involved with trying to pull that off. So my hope is that we can continue to grow our service offering, not only in South Australia but nationally as well, and to eventually reduce the cost of those services, which we can talk about in a minute if you like. But some things we haven't mentioned that we've started implementing is like we've got surf therapy at the moment. So we've teamed up with another first responder from South Australia who's a passionate surfer, to create surf therapy. So we ran a pilot of that back in June, and we're just about to start releasing more of those shortly, which is a way to bring people together. So it'll be like groups of 10 to 16. So bring them together, all sort of serving or former first responders, military members, etc. and then get them out in the water, get them together, get them connected, get them talking, get them out in the water, access flow state, try something new outside the comfort zone, feel the rewards of being in nature and accessing flow state, and then coming back together again. So, it's we're Dan and I are very much of the opinion that modern medicine and tablets have their place, but it's not the only medicine for someone that's struggling, whatever that struggle may be. So, we're definitely big on the benefits of water therapy, surf therapy, and our conferencing workshops. So large scale events where we can get a lot of content and a lot of education into a short period of time, whilst bringing our community together. So we just want to we want time and space to be able to put more and more of that on. And we'll be doing another conference, Thriving on the Frontline 2025 in Queensland, so on the Gold Coast in March 2025. And the following day, so that'll be on the 15th of March. On the 16th of March, we're actually going to hold a series of group surf therapy on the Gold Coast as well. So we're going to fly our surf instructor up there and run 4 different sessions up there on the Gold Coast. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff in the pipeline, but that's the few things that are coming up.
Sounds great.
Thriving on the Frontline, you guys have run one of those previously was it in South Australia?
We ran one in March this year in Adelaide. Yep. And
just for those that are listening that might be interested in going along to the upcoming one in March, what is that? What does it look like? What does it entail?
Yeah, sure. So it's a full day immersive conference/workshop. So it'll involve 3 keynotes for the first half of the day. So my offsider and the other co-owner of Aussie Frontline, Dr. Dan Prompt. So he'll be doing a keynote there, and then we'll have our counsellor, Maddie Newlands, who's got an incredibly powerful story coming up for the second keynote. And the third keynote will actually be Keith Banks, who's a former Queensland police officer, doing the third keynote. So interspersed in there is morning tea and lunch and whatnot. And then after lunch, we're going to have a series of breakout activities that you can pick and choose. So there'll be 6 different activities. You won't be able to go to all 6. You'll be able to pick, depending on the time limits of them, because they all run for different times, but you'll be able to pick probably 2 or 3 out of the 6 that most resonate with you, and go and do that in a smaller group setting. So those workshops will include cold water therapy with Dan Prompt. I believe Mandy's going to be running a breathwork session up there. There'll be Keith Banks running a session called Going Corporate, which is all about if you're looking at leaving one of the services, how you can sort of maximize and bring together your experience to put together a good CV in the corporate world. So that's more of a transition piece. One of the activities is understanding identity with our counsellors, Matt Newlands and Narelle. So that'll be a sort of pretty immersive, intensive breakdown of identity and really understanding what identity is and how it affects your life. We'll probably this year, which is quite exciting, be running a wound packing and tourniquet workshop as well with TACMed. So that'll involve actually getting practical skills for sort of traumatic wound dressing and whatnot. So these are things that certain first responders will be well trained in this and will not need it, but others, it's certainly something they come across, but they don't get trained for it. So it'll be an opportunity to get some skills, and we'll have a bunch of stall holders there and whatnot. So you get to meet other people like Troy Knight, there's a few others that we're trying to get down there, but I won't mention them until they commit. But it'll be at the Royal Pines Resort on the Gold Coast, fully catered event. Yeah, be a fantastic day.
And that's March 2025?
March 5th. Yeah, March 15th. So it's not live yet. We haven't announced it publicly, and we haven't got we haven't put the tickets up for purchase yet, but that will be happening very shortly. So if anyone's listening and they're interested in that, then just keep an eye out for it, and I'll be able to grab a ticket soon.
Yeah, good. Another great
concept.
And I imagine, outside of the knowledge sharing at that event, Mali, you got the networking as well of other frontline community members who who are going to be somewhat aligned or like-minded
Yeah.
to that.
It's just as important. The social aspect is just as important as the individual workshops or keynotes. Coming together with a shared purpose in one space. Meeting people from probably your own service that you didn't actually know and others, not only from that state, but we had a lot of people travel from interstate for the last one. So I imagine that'll occur again. And funnily enough, Dan mentioned this at the closing of the last one. Like the day was just completely free of ego and 100% supportive. Like it was an absolutely beautiful environment to be in. And the feedback that we got from participants was that they felt exactly the same, which is fantastic. So the social, aside from what you'll learn, the social aspect of it is just incredible. And from my perspective, what you would hope that your work environment would be like, but unfortunately, it's probably not quite like that unless you're very lucky. But yeah, we can at least give it to you on this day.
That no egos thing, that amazes me. Like when they first arrive, is there that bravado or that ego? Do they finally, or is it just walk in, open mind, let's go? I think
I didn't see it. I didn't see it at all. And we had people at the last one from highly decorated, high-ranking officers in the military, and commissioned officers in the police, for example, all the way down to cadets and probationary employees of the emergency services or people that have just joined the military and everything in between. It was just incredible. And, everyone shared the space equally. It was fantastic.
Excellent.
It's very different to the work environment.
Yeah.
Will there be an opportunity to sponsor tickets to that, Mali?
To sponsor tickets? Absolutely. We're open to that concept for sure. Yeah.
Just a random thought that popped in, and much like the shirts, if you can think of someone who might benefit from it, then.
Well, funnily enough, we had a company last year that did exactly that. So they basically asked if they could sponsor half price tickets for 10 people. So we were able to offer 10 tickets half price with the remainder covered by them, which was fantastic. And my hope would be that there's some managers in different organisations listening to this that see benefit for their people and potentially can help some of their people come at no cost to the member. And that did happen last year as well. Unfortunately, at the moment, we need to charge a ticket fee to be able to put the event on and pay for the costs involved in running the event. And that's not always achievable by the individuals. Everyone's got their own financial situation and for some people it's very hard to spend money on their own well-being. They might do it for a new TV or something like that, but when it's about just their own well-being, they seem to feel guilty about it and find every reason not to. And that's a shame because sometimes they're the very ones that need to be there. So we, long term, we don't want finances to be a barrier, and we're working on a model to be able to reduce or remove the cost. But in the short term, it is something that you'll need to pay for a ticket for to get there.
Small price to pay for health and wellbeing.
Yeah, to us, it's absolutely a small cost. And I guess my point being that if there's any managers out there that have the capacity to fund their employees to go, then we highly recommend it.
Yeah, well, I guess if you send your people to an event like this, I imagine they're going to bring so much optimism and knowledge and stuff back to the unit, section, team, whatever you're working in, and it's only going to have, a further positive effect on the organisation, right? Not just the individual. Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And we're grateful that last year there was a few organisations that saw that potential and made sure that they had, funded people to attend who were in positions where they could affect some change, which was fantastic. And I know that some changes have been made in South Australia in particular organisations as a result of what was learned on that day, and that's just beautiful to see. How good.
Excellent.
Anything else?
Mate, again, thanks for the work you're doing. It draws a sense of relief for me. I feel excited because we're at that change now where differences are being made. What you're doing is fantastic. And I think anyone listening, hopefully, and I can't see how they couldn't, draw a positive and go, you know what, there is an outlet for me. There's, somewhere I can go to get back in that safe space. And the big thing we've all been discussing throughout this episode is get back to loving the job that we're all in and, nurturing each other and growing and serving the community. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Before I go, do you mind if I just mention the charity?
Oh, please give us a plug, mate. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So when I mentioned before about long-term goals being to reduce or remove cost to people accessing the kinds of things that we're offering, Dan and I have just established the Aussie Frontline Foundation, so a registered not-for-profit, which will act as a funding source down the track for things like Thriving on the Frontline, workshops, conferences, surf therapy, pay it forwards, counselling. So very shortly that will be made public. Our website will go live, and there'll be an opportunity for anyone that wants to or feels inclined to be able to donate to that charity. And then everything we've discussed in this podcast is what we'll be using the funds for and more. So keep an eye out for that. And hopefully, if you can't make the event in March next year, at some point there'll be more for you to be able to attend and I guess experience and see everything we're talking about here today.
Excellent, and we'll drop that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Josh?
So on that, Marley, where can people follow along if they're not already? Where can they find you?
Sure. So we've got a website, so aussiefrontline.com.au. Very shortly when we go live with the foundation, that'll be aussiefrontlinefoundation.org.au. Instagram is where we do most of our communicating. So that's Aussie_Frontline. I think we've got a Facebook page as well, but we're not super active on there. But whatever we post on Instagram, we'll go there. And on our website is a contact us button, so an email address and a phone number. So you can reach out through any of those social media platforms or emails, fine, and we'll get back to you and help you if you need help or whatever it is you need. We'll try and sort you out.
So follow along and keep an eye out for the updates.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Too good. Well, just echoing what Jando said, mate. Thank you so much for not only your time today, but everything that you and Dan are doing with Aussie Frontline. Obviously having a great impact, plugging that void that we sort of spoke about, and just doing some really, really, really good work. So thanks again, mate.
Thank you very much for having me and allowing me the opportunity to have a chat to you about it. It's something I'm very passionate about, and any chance I get to have a chat, it is a good day as far as I'm concerned. So thanks for your time. And thanks for your service as well. You haven't mentioned that, but both of you are very committed long-term serving members of the emergency services. So thank you from us to you.
Great. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please show your support by subscribing, liking and rating the podcast on your listening and social media platforms. We are always looking to improve what we do. If you have feedback, suggestions for further guests, topics, or would like to be a guest yourself, please contact us via Instagram.
Stop the scene.